Okay, so I have two questions here. The first question should now be easy. The second question is a little bit more challenging, and I'll explain to you why. But first, let's go ahead and solve this question. So the first step always is to add up all the parts. When we add up all the parts, that represents the whole. If you remember in our first class, the whole is also represented by the denominator, meaning all of the parts together. So if we add all these parts, we should get the number 20. And if we want to find out what each person's share was, all we have to do now is just put each part of the ratio as the numerator. So in this case, it will be 8 over 20. We multiply that by the total prize money, and then we get our calculator and we work out what is 8 divided by 20 times or multiply by 5,000, and the answer is 2,000. And then we do the same for the second person, 7 over 20. So remember, the numerator represents a portion of the whole, and this is important for the next question, but let's work it out anyway. So 7 divided by 20 multiplied by 5,000, and that equals 1,750. And again for the next one, 5 over 20 multiplied by 5,000 equals 1,250. Okay, so that's pretty easy. Now, the next question is a little bit more difficult. Let's assume that you don't know what the total prize money is. For example, in this question, it says 3 people shared in the lottery win in the ratio 8-7-5. If the smallest share was 1,250, what were the other shares and how much was there to be divided? So now it's a lot more different now, because we don't have the total prize money. We just can't go ahead, for example, and do 8 over 20 times 1,250. That would be incorrect, because 1,250 is representing a portion, a part of the total prize money. So we can't do that. So we need to get rid of that. If you read the question carefully, it's saying that the smaller share was 1,250. Now, if you look at this ratio, you'll see that the smaller share is actually the smaller number. So the smaller number here is the number 5. So if we were to write that as a fraction, then it would be 5 over 20. Why? Because 5 represents a part of all the parts, so a portion of the whole. So because it's a portion of the whole, it will be the numerator. And 20 represents all of the parts together. Now, we know that 5 over 20 is the actual share of 1,250, because it says here the smallest share was 1,250. So the smallest share is the number 5, and the number 5 in this ratio as a fraction would be 5/20. Now, we need to simplify this because we don't want to work with a fraction that's not simplified. So let's simplify this, and if we do, we know that the highest common factor is 5, so this should simplify to 1/4. Now, why is this important to simplify? Well, if you remember in our first class on rational numbers, we said that basically in fractions we have numerators and denominators. Denominators are representing all of the parts, so the whole, and numerators are representing a portion of the part, like for example what I'm shading there. So we know that, but we also know in this question that this 1/4 is actually representing 1250. Right? We know that because it says here the smallest share is 1250. The smallest share is a smaller number, so it's the number 5. This as a fraction is 5/20. We simplify this, we get 1/4. So 1/4 is representing 1250. So what we could do therefore is, instead of shading a square, let's instead write down 1250 in the square here. Now, if I was to ask you, what is the total prize money? Now it's easy, because if 1/4 is 1250, then we know how to find the total prize money. Remember, the whole is represented by the denominator. All of the parts is represented by the denominator. So if 1/4 of the total prize money is 1250, then all we need to do now is multiply this quarter by 4. Why? Because if you can see here, this one here that I'm highlighting now, this represents 1/4, 1250, 1/4. So this is the 1 representing all of the parts here. So if 1/4 is 1250, then now we can work out the total prize money, because all we have to do now is write down 1250 in each square. Okay, so that's why we multiply by 4. That's why multiplying by the whole number here, the denominator, will give us the total prize money. And if you do that in your calculator, you should get 5,000. Now that we have the total prize money, the rest is easy. All we have to do is what we did before in this other easier question. So this question here is a harder version of the same question. So now that we have the total prize money, the rest is really easy. All we have to do is get the fractions for the rest of the portions in the ratio. For example, all we have to do now is do 8/20 multiplied by the total prize money, and we get 2,000, and then 7/20 multiplied by 5,000, and we get 1,750. So you can see that we've got the same results. I'll just circle these. We've got the same results that we did in the previous question. The only difference in this question was that it only gave us a portion of the prize money. In this case, it gave us the number 5, the smaller share. But if we ever get a question like that, now we should know what to do. All we have to do is we put the share that it's specifying as a fraction, we simplify it, and then we multiply the amount of that share by the denominator. That will give us the total prize money, and then the rest is easy from there. Now, this question was pretty challenging, so if you don't understand it right away, it's okay. We'll do some more of these questions in class.